I am Joanne, 35 years old and the eldest daughter in my family. Our $800,000 family home held 20 years of memories, so when my parents announced they were signing it over to my sister Amanda, everyone expected me to explode. Instead, I just smiled. They had no idea what I had planned. If you are watching this from your family home, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to see how I turned this betrayal into the most satisfying lesson my family ever learned. Growing up in our suburban Boston home was a mixture of comfort and unspoken expectations. The two-story colonial with the wraparound porch and the maple tree I climbed every summer became more than a structure. It was the backdrop to my entire childhood. My father, Thomas, now 65, worked as a bank manager, always dressed in crisp shirts and polished shoes, even on weekends. My mother, Margaret, 63, taught elementary school until I was in high school, when she decided to become a full-time homemaker. They were loving parents in their own way, but their love often came wrapped in expectations that felt impossible to meet. Then there was my sister Amanda, 3 years younger at 32. From the moment she was born, she seemed to possess some magical quality that made everyone orbit around her. Her tantrums were considered passionate. Her mediocre grades were accepted without question, and her mistakes were always someone else helping her go astray. I spent my childhood watching her receive twice the praise for half the effort. The contrast between how our parents treated us became painfully obvious during my senior year of high school. I had received a full scholarship to Northwestern University for journalism, my dream since I was 12. 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, my grandparents both fell ill simultaneously. Without discussion, it was decided that I would defer my scholarship to stay home and help care for them. Amanda was starting high school and needed stability, they said. I needed to be the responsible one. I spent 2 years helping my grandparents, watching my scholarship disappear along with my plans. When my grandfather finally passed away, my grandmother moved to a retirement community in Florida. I was 20 years old with no college education and no plan. That was when I discovered real estate. I started as a receptionist at a local agency, working my way up to an agent within 18 months. By 22, I was financially independent, renting my own apartment, and building a client base that would sustain me for years to come. At 26, I met Michael, a financial analyst with a quick smile and ambitious plans. We married after a year, buying a small condo together near the harbor. For a while, it seemed like I had finally found my own path to happiness. But 5 years into our marriage, I discovered emails between Michael and my close friend Stephanie. The affair had been going on for almost a year. The divorce was quick but painful, leaving me with the condo and a shattered sense of trust. While my personal life crumbled, my career flourished. I specialized in luxury properties, earning commissions that allowed me to renovate my condo and start an investment portfolio. I channeled all my pain into work, becoming one of the top-selling agents in Boston by 30. Amanda, meanwhile, dropped out of college twice, cycled through jobs that our parents helped her get, and lived rent-free in their house until she was 28. When she finally moved out, it was because she married Ryan, a charming but chronically unemployed musician. Their wedding cost our parents nearly $40,000. My wedding had been a modest affair that Michael and I paid for ourselves. The divide between us grew wider each year. Every holiday, every family gathering became an exercise in restraint as I watched Amanda receive endless support while my achievements were treated as expected. I stopped attending most family events, creating excuses about work commitments. The truth was that each interaction left me feeling like an outsider in my own family. Last Christmas, I reluctantly attended dinner at the family home. Amanda announced she was pregnant, and my parents reacted as if she had discovered the cure for cancer. When I mentioned that I had just closed a $2 million property sale, my father simply nodded and asked if I was seeing anyone. That night, as I drove back to my condo, I wondered if the distance between us would ever close, or if I was destined to be the family afterthought forever. Little did I know that the true test of our family bonds was just around the corner, and that the home I had grown up in would become the centerpiece of the most painful betrayal I had yet to experience. The family meeting was called on a Sunday afternoon in April, 6 months ago. My mother had been unusually insistent about my attendance, mentioning important family business that required everyone present. I arrived to find my father pacing the living room, my mother arranging and rearranging cookies on a plate, and Amanda sitting in the armchair by the fireplace, one hand on her visibly pregnant belly, a strange smile playing at her lips. We exchanged pleasantries while I tried to ignore the tension hanging in the air. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of small talk, my father cleared his throat. "Joanne, Amanda, your mother and I have made an important decision about the future," he began, his voice carrying that official tone he used when discussing serious matters. "As you know, we have owned this house for almost 30 years. We have been thinking about our retirement and what would be best for everyone." My mother jumped in, her words tumbling out nervously. "We have decided to transfer ownership of the house to Amanda and Ryan. They need the stability with the baby coming, and it makes sense for them to raise their family here." The room seemed to tilt slightly. I gripped the edge of the sofa, forcing my face to remain neutral while my mind raced. Our family home, worth at least $800,000 in the current market, was being handed to my sister without discussion. "What do you think, Joanne?" my father asked, studying my face with unusual intensity. I took a deep breath. "What about you and Mom? Where will you live?" "We are looking at apartments," my mother replied quickly. "Something smaller, easier to maintain. We are getting older, after all." Amanda spoke up, her voice saccharine. "Mom and Dad have worked so hard their whole lives. They deserve to relax now, not worry about yard work and maintenance." I nodded slowly, fighting the urge to point out that she and Ryan had never managed to keep an apartment for more than a year without some disaster occurring. "And what about me?" I finally asked, hating how small my voice sounded. My father shifted uncomfortably. "Joanne, you have done so well for yourself. You have your condo, your successful career. Amanda and Ryan need this help to get established, especially with the baby coming." In that moment, I understood perfectly. My success had become my punishment. Because I had worked hard and built something for myself, I deserved nothing more. Because Amanda had consistently failed to launch, she deserved everything. "I see," was all I said, forcing a smile that felt like glass cutting my lips. For the next hour, I sat in silence as my parents and Amanda discussed the transfer details as if I were not there. They had already consulted their lawyer. The paperwork was being prepared. Amanda talked about the nursery she planned to create in my old bedroom, how she would finally replace the outdated kitchen counters. It became clear that this decision had been made long ago. This meeting was not a discussion but an announcement, a courtesy call to the daughter they assumed would understand and support their choice without question. That night, after driving home in a daze, I happened to check social media. There was Amanda, posting photos of the house with the caption, "Soon to be officially ours. Blessed Family Home New Chapter." Her friends' comments flooded in, congratulating her. One comment from her friend Lisa caught my eye. "So amazing your parents are doing this for you. Did your sister freak out?" Amanda's reply made my blood run cold. "She is fine with it. She has her own place anyway and makes tons of money. My parents know who actually needs their help, lol." I closed my laptop and walked to the window, staring out at the harbor lights. The pain in my chest was physical, like someone had hollowed out a space where something important used to be. I had spent my entire life trying to make my parents proud, being responsible, never asking for help even when I desperately needed it. And this was my reward: to be dismissed as the daughter who needed nothing while everything was given to the daughter who had never stood on her own. Sleep evaded me that night, and many nights after. I would lie awake replaying every family memory, searching for the moment when I had become so expendable. But as the initial shock began to fade, something else took its place: determination. If my parents and sister saw me as nothing but successful and self-sufficient, perhaps it was time to show them exactly what that meant. I would not protest or beg for equal treatment. I would accept their decision with grace. And then I would make some decisions of my own. 3 weeks after the family meeting, I stopped by my parents' house unannounced, hoping to speak with my mother alone. My father was usually at his weekly golf game, and Amanda had a prenatal appointment that afternoon. I needed to understand more about their financial situation before proceeding with what I was beginning to formulate in my mind. I found my mother at the kitchen table surrounded by papers, a calculator, and an expression of distress I had rarely seen on her face. She hurriedly gathered the documents when she heard me enter. "Joanne, "I was not expecting you," she said, her voice too bright, too forced. "Sorry to drop in, Mom. I was in the neighborhood showing a property and thought I would say hello." I gestured toward the papers. "Busy with something?" "Just some boring retirement planning." She attempted to slide the papers into a folder, but not before I caught sight of a bank statement with an alarming negative balance and what appeared to be a notice from a debt collection agency. "Mom, is everything okay financially?" I asked gently. Her face crumpled momentarily before she recovered her composure. "Of course, dear. Just the usual bills and things." I sat down across from her. "Mom, I work in finance-adjacent fields. I know what collection notices look like." After several minutes of gentle prodding, the truth began to emerge. My father had made some disastrous investment decisions 5 years ago, losing a significant portion of their retirement savings. Instead of adjusting their lifestyle, they had begun using credit cards and home equity loans to maintain appearances. They were now buried under nearly $250,000 of debt, with my father's retirement imminent. "Does Amanda know about this?" I asked, already suspecting the answer. My mother nodded reluctantly. "She and Ryan know we have had some setbacks, but we do not want to burden either of you with our problems." The pieces were falling into place. "Is that why you are giving them the house? To protect it from creditors?" "Partially," she admitted, "but also because they truly need it. And this way, at least one of our children will have security." "And where will you and Dad live?" I pressed. "We have been looking at apartments in Dorchester," she said, naming one of the less expensive and higher crime neighborhoods in the area. "There are some reasonable options within our budget." I felt sick. My parents, in their mid-60s, planning to live in an unsafe neighborhood while gifting their most valuable asset to my sister. And Amanda, knowing their financial situation, was accepting this gift without concern for their well-being. Later that day, I called Frank Sullivan, a lawyer friend who had handled several property transactions for my clients. "Legally, they can gift the house to your sister," he explained after I outlined the situation. "But if it is done to avoid creditors, it could potentially be challenged as fraudulent transfer." "More importantly, Joanne, it sounds like your parents are making decisions out of desperation without considering their long-term security. What would happen if they needed assisted living or medical care? Would Amanda be obligated to sell the house to help them?" "No legal obligation, no," Frank said. "Once the house is hers, she can do whatever she wants with it. Given what you have told me about her past behavior." He did not need to finish the thought. We both knew what would likely happen. My next step was to learn more about Amanda's financial situation. Through discreet inquiries among mutual acquaintances, I discovered that she and Ryan were drowning in consumer debt. Ryan had been between gigs for 8 months, and Amanda had maxed out multiple credit cards on nursery furniture, designer maternity clothes, and a luxury baby moon vacation to Hawaii. They had no savings, no financial plan beyond receiving the house. I also discovered, through a conversation with my father's old friend Walter, that Amanda and Ryan had already approached several banks about home equity loans they planned to take out once the house was in their names. They had no intention of simply living in and maintaining the family home. They planned to extract its value immediately. One evening, I drove past my parents' house and saw them loading boxes into their car. Curious, I followed at a distance as they drove to a rundown apartment complex with barred windows and graffiti-covered walls. I watched from across the street as they examined a first-floor unit, my mother's expression tight with barely concealed dismay. The final piece fell into place when I checked county property records and discovered that Amanda had already contacted a real estate agent about the potential market value of the house after some updates. She was planning to sell, perhaps within months of receiving this generous gift. My parents were sacrificing their safety and financial security for a daughter who viewed their gift as nothing more than a cash withdrawal. And I, the daughter who had built a career in real estate and financial independence, had not been consulted once. That night, I made my decision. If my family was determined to make these self-destructive choices, I could not stop them. But I could create a safety net they did not know they needed. If they would not protect themselves, I would do it for them, whether they appreciated it or not. The next morning, I began putting my plan into action. The opportunity presented itself faster than I expected. A penthouse unit in the Beacon, one of Boston's most prestigious residential buildings, came onto the market quietly as a pocket listing. The owner, an elderly widower moving to Arizona to be near his grandchildren, wanted a quick, discreet sale without the property hitting the open market. I had sold his daughter a brownstone the previous year, and she reached out to see if I had any clients who might be interested. The moment she described the 3-bedroom, 3-bath penthouse with harbor views and full-service amenities, including 24-hour security, I knew it was perfect. "I might have a buyer," I told her. "Actually, I might be the buyer." The penthouse was listed at $1.2 million, steep even for Boston's luxury market, but I leveraged my relationship and knowledge of recent comparable sales to negotiate it down to $950,000. Still a breathtaking sum, but within reach if I liquidated some investments and took out a mortgage I could comfortably afford with my income. I closed on the property in 3 weeks, a record even for cash transactions. Throughout the process, I maintained my normal routine with my family, attending a dinner at my parents' house, where Amanda showed off the paint samples for the nursery and discussed the contractors she had already contacted about kitchen renovations. "We will probably start work right after we close," she said, patting her 8-month pregnant belly. "I want everything perfect before the baby comes." My father looked uncomfortable. "Maybe wait a bit before taking on renovations, Amanda. You and Ryan should get settled first." Amanda waved away his concern. "The longer we wait, the longer we will live in an outdated house. Besides, the contractor said we can finance everything." I watched my parents exchange worried glances, but say nothing. They had created this situation and now felt powerless to control it. Meanwhile, I was busy creating a home for them they did not yet know existed. I hired an interior designer, showing her photos I had surreptitiously taken of my parents' bedroom and living room to capture their style preferences. I selected furniture that mirrored their taste, but was new and high quality. I found a desk nearly identical to my father's beloved cherrywood one, and a kitchen setup that would make my mother's eyes light up. Every detail was considered, from the specific brand of coffee maker they used to the type of reading lamps they preferred. I even set up a small room as a potential nursery, knowing they would want their grandchild to visit comfortably. The security was state-of-the-art, the building maintenance immaculate, and the neighbors a mix of successful professionals and affluent retirees. The community had weekly social events, a book club my mother would love, and a chess group perfect for my father. It was everything they deserved for their retirement years. 2 days before the official house transfer was scheduled, I met again with Frank to execute the final part of my plan. We created an irrevocable trust with my parents as beneficiaries. The penthouse was transferred into this trust, with stipulations that prevented it from being sold or leveraged without multiple trustee approvals. I would make the mortgage payments through the trust, keeping my name officially disconnected from the property. "Are you sure about this, Joanne?" Frank asked as we signed the final documents. "This is an extraordinary gift, and from what you have told me, they are not treating you very fairly in their own estate planning." I thought about his question carefully. "This is not about fairness, Frank. If I wanted fair, I would have fought the house transfer to Amanda. This is about doing what is right, even when no one expects it of you. Especially when no one expects it of you." The day of the house transfer arrived. We all gathered at the lawyer's office, my parents appearing both relieved and slightly guilty, Amanda practically glowing with triumph, and Ryan scrolling through his phone, barely paying attention to the proceedings that were securing his financial future. When the time came to sign, everyone looked at me, clearly expecting some last-minute objection or emotional scene. Instead, I smiled. "I hope you will be very happy there, Amanda," I said sincerely. "It is a wonderful house to grow up in." The confusion on their faces was evident. My mother reached over to squeeze my hand, tears in her eyes. "You are taking this so well, Joanne. We were worried." I squeezed back. "There is nothing to worry about. I understand why you made this decision." They had no idea how much I truly understood, or what I had done in response. As we walked out of the lawyer's office, Amanda already talking about the housewarming party she planned to throw, I felt a curious lightness. The pain and betrayal were still there, but alongside them was something new. The anticipation of seeing justice unfold on its own timeline. The transfer was complete. The house that had been in our family for nearly 3 decades now belonged solely to Amanda and Ryan. And my parents, who had sacrificed their security to provide for their younger daughter, had no idea that their elder daughter had sacrificed to provide for them. 1 week. That was all I needed to wait before setting the second part of my plan in motion. 7 days after the house transfer, I called my parents and invited them to dinner at my new apartment. I had been intentionally vague about my living situation for months, mentioning casually that I was considering moving from my condo to something with better amenities. "I would love for you to see it," I told my mother. "I just got settled and want your opinion on the decor." They agreed readily, perhaps eager to maintain our relationship after the house situation. I texted them the address of the beacon, but intentionally did not add their names to the visitor list with building security. At 6:30 that evening, I received a call from my father. "Joanne, we are at the building you told us, but the security guard will not let us in. He says we are not on the approved list." "I will be right down," I replied, smiling to myself as I took the elevator to the immaculate lobby. I found my parents standing awkwardly by the security desk, looking out of place among the marble floors and designer furniture. My father was arguing softly with the guard, showing him his ID and my text message. "It is okay, George," I told the security guard. "These are my parents, Thomas and Margaret Wilson. They will be visiting regularly from now on." The guard nodded respectfully. "Would you like me to add them to your permanent visitor list, Miss Parker?" "Actually," I said, "they should be in the resident directory, not the visitor list. There seems to be a mix-up." My parents looked at me with confusion as we entered the private elevator that served only the penthouse levels. "Joanne, what did you mean about the resident directory?" my mother asked. "And how can you afford to live in a building like this? The Beacon is one of the most expensive addresses in the city." "You will understand everything soon," I promised, as the elevator ascended to the 35th floor. When the doors opened directly into the penthouse foyer, my parents gasped. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased a panoramic view of Boston Harbor, the evening lights of the city creating a glittering backdrop. The spacious, open-concept living area was tastefully furnished, with pieces that echoed their own preferred style but were new and elegant. "Joanne, how can you?" my father stammered, walking slowly into the space, turning in a circle to take it all in. "This must cost a fortune," my mother whispered. "Your real estate business must be doing even better than we thought." I led them through the apartment, showing them the gourmet kitchen, the luxurious bedrooms, the office space, and finally ending at the massive terrace overlooking the water. "Do you like it?" I asked quietly. "It is stunning, sweetheart," my mother said. "We had no idea you could afford something like this." I took a deep breath. "I'm glad you like it, because it is not mine. It is yours." The silence that followed was absolute. My father, always quick with words, seemed to have lost the ability to speak. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. "What do you mean it is ours?" she finally managed. I guided them to the living room sofa and sat them down, then handed them a thick folder of legal documents. "This penthouse belongs to you. It is held in a trust with both of you as beneficiaries. The mortgage is paid. The maintenance fees are covered for the next 5 years. This is your home now." My father flipped through the documents with trembling hands. "Joanne, this is impossible. We cannot accept this. It must have cost just under $1 million," I finished for him, "which is approximately $200,000 more than the house you just gave to Amanda." The color drained from my mother's face. "How did you know what the house is worth? We never discussed." "I am a real estate agent, Mom. Valuing properties is what I do every day." I sat across from them, maintaining a calm I did not entirely feel. "I also know about the debt, the failed investments, and the apartment you were looking at in Dorchester." My father looked up sharply. "You have been investigating us?" "I have been protecting you," I corrected gently. "The same way you thought you were protecting Amanda by giving her the house. The difference is that my protection does not come at anyone else's expense." Before they could respond, my mother's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. "It is Amanda," she said, looking uncertainly at me. "Answer it," I suggested. "Put it on speaker." My mother hesitantly pressed the button, and Amanda's voice filled the penthouse, shrill and agitated. "Mom, I just got off the phone with the real estate agent. He says we can list the house for $850,000 and it will probably sell within a month." Ryan and I can pay off our debts and still have enough for a down payment on a place in Cambridge. My parents froze, staring at the phone in my mother's hand. Amanda, my mother said carefully, what are you talking about? You are selling the house? We just signed it over to you a week ago. We thought you wanted it for your family, for the baby. There was a pause before Amanda replied, her voice suddenly defensive. Well, yes, that was the plan initially, but Ryan and I talked about it, and this market is too good to ignore. It makes more financial sense to sell now and use the money for a fresh start. What about us? My father asked, his voice uncharacteristically small. Where are we supposed to live while you are making this fresh start? Another pause, longer this time. Dad? Are you with Mom? Look, we assumed you two had your own plans since you have been looking at apartments. We need to make smart decisions for our future, for the baby's future. The same justification my parents had used when giving her the house was now being thrown back at them. I watched as the realization dawned on their faces. Amanda had never intended to preserve the family home. She had seen it as a cash windfall from the moment they offered it. We will have to call you back, Amanda, my mother said faintly, ending the call before turning to me, with tears streaming down her face. Joanne, we have made a terrible mistake. I took her hands in mine. No, you made a choice based on what you thought was right at the time. You wanted to help Amanda because you thought she needed it more than I did. I am making the same kind of choice now, helping you because you need it more than Amanda does. But we cannot possibly accept this, my father protested, gesturing around the penthouse. This is too much. We do not deserve this after how we have treated you. This is not about what any of us deserves, I told them. If life were fair, I would have gone to Northwestern on my scholarship. Amanda would have learned to support herself years ago, and you would not have lost your retirement savings. But life is not fair, and family is not about fairness. It is about love, even when it is imperfect. As they sat there, surrounded by the evidence of their elder daughter's love and success, contrasted with the painful revelation of their younger daughter's true intentions, I saw something break and reform in both of them. The carefully constructed family narrative they had maintained for decades, with Amanda as the fragile flower needing protection and me as the self-sufficient success, shattered completely. In its place was beginning to grow something new, the truth. 3 days later, we all gathered in the penthouse for what my father had termed a necessary family meeting. Amanda arrived first, clearly annoyed at being summoned to an unfamiliar address. Her irritation turned to shock when she entered the penthouse and saw me greeting her at the door. "What is this place?" she demanded, looking around with a mixture of confusion and envy. "And why are we meeting here instead of at my house?" "Your house that you are planning to sell, you mean?" I replied calmly, leading her into the living room where our parents were waiting. Amanda's face flushed. "Have you been spying on me?" "What I do with my property is none of your business, Joanne." "Actually," my father interjected, standing to face his younger daughter, "what you do with that house very much concerns your mother and me, considering we gave it to you based on your promise to make it a home for your family." Amanda's expression hardened as she looked between our parents. "So that is what this ambush is about? You are upset that Ryan and I are making a smart financial decision?" "We are upset that you lied to us," my mother said quietly. "You never intended to keep the house, did you? It was always about the money." "I did not lie," Amanda protested. "Circumstances changed. We realized a different neighborhood would be better for the baby. Why are you making me feel guilty about wanting the best for my child?" I watched my sister deploy the tactics that had worked her entire life. Deflection, guilt, playing the victim. But for the first time, I saw my parents truly seeing through it. "Amanda," my father said firmly, "the issue is not that you want to sell the house. The issue is that you let us believe you wanted it for sentimental reasons, for stability, when you were already planning to convert it to cash before the ink was dry on the transfer papers." Amanda turned to me, eyes narrowing. "This is your doing, is not it? You have always been jealous that Mom and Dad love me more. You could not stand that they gave me the house, so you turned them against me." "No one has turned us against you," my mother sighed. "We have simply had our eyes opened." "To what?" Amanda snapped. "That I am making adult decisions about my finances? Meanwhile, what is this place? Why are we in this fancy apartment? Whose is it?" It belongs to your parents, I answered. I bought it for them when I discovered they were planning to move to a dangerous neighborhood because they had given you their most valuable asset. Amanda's jaw dropped. You… What? You bought this? This entire apartment? Penthouse, my father corrected. And yes, your sister purchased this for us, without being asked, without expecting anything in return, while knowing we had just given everything to you. Amanda looked momentarily stunned before rallying. Well, great for Joanne. She has always been the perfect daughter, has not she? Always making the rest of us feel inadequate with her success and her generosity. This is just another way to show off how much better she is. That is not fair, Amanda, my mother said. Your sister did this out of love, not competition. Amanda's face contorted with rage. Not fair? You want to talk about fair? I have a baby coming. I need financial security. I deserve that house after everything I have been through. What exactly have you been through? I asked, speaking up again. What hardships have you endured that justify taking our parents' home and financial security? Not all of us can be perfect like you, Joanne, she shouted. Some of us struggle. Some of us need help. I have struggled too, I said quietly. I gave up my scholarship to take care of our grandparents. I worked my way up from nothing in real estate. I went through a divorce when Michael cheated on me. The difference is that I never expected anyone else to solve my problems. Amanda turned back to our parents. Are you going to let her talk to me like this? In my condition? My mother stood up, her usually soft demeanor replaced with unexpected firmness. Your condition does not exempt you from responsibility, Amanda. We have enabled your behavior for too long, and look where it has gotten us all. Your sister just spent nearly $1 million to ensure we would not live in poverty after giving you our home. A home you promised to keep in the family, my father added. This is ridiculous, Amanda sputtered. The house is legally mine now. You signed it over. I can do whatever I want with it. Yes, you can, I agreed. And that tells us everything we need to know about your character. You know what? Amanda grabbed her purse, her face flushed with anger. Keep your judgments. The transfer is done. The house is mine. And if you think I am going to let you make me feel guilty about selling it, you are wrong. I will be talking to my lawyer about this. Actually, a new voice interjected. I would advise against hasty legal action in this situation. We all turned to see Frank entering from the kitchen where he had been waiting at my request. Who are you? Amanda demanded. Frank Sullivan, attorney at law, he replied smoothly. I have been advising your family on certain legal matters. Well, I have my own lawyer, Amanda shot back. That is your right, Frank said with a professional smile. But before you engage in potentially costly legal proceedings, you should know that the house transfer is indeed legally binding. Your parents gifted you the property free and clear. However, he added, looking pointedly at my parents, any statements you may have made about your intentions for the property, particularly if they influenced your parents' decision to transfer ownership, could potentially open other areas of civil litigation. Are you threatening me? Amanda asked incredulously. Not at all, Frank replied. Just ensuring everyone understands the potential legal landscape. Additionally, your parents are now beneficiaries of a substantial trust that secures their housing and financial needs for the remainder of their lives. Any litigation would need to take that into account. Amanda looked between all of us, the reality of the situation finally sinking in. Not only had she lost the moral high ground, but her legal position was far less advantageous than she had assumed. This is unbelievable, she muttered. My own family, ganging up on me right before I give birth. No one is ganging up on you, my father said tiredly. We are simply no longer allowing ourselves to be manipulated by your perpetual victim status. Amanda stared at him in shock. In all her 32 years, our father had never spoken to her that way. Fine, she said finally. Sell the house, do not sell it. Live here in your fancy penthouse that perfect Joanne bought you. See if I care. But do not expect to be part of your grandchild's life, if this is how you are going to treat me. With that final attempt at emotional blackmail, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother sank back onto the sofa, tears streaming down her face. My father stood by the window, staring out at the harbor, his shoulders slumped in defeat. I am so sorry, I said softly. I never wanted this confrontation. I just wanted you to be safe and secure. My father turned to me, his eyes wet with tears. No, Joanne, we are the ones who should be sorry. We have treated you unfairly for years, taking your strength and independence as a reason to give everything to Amanda. We failed both our daughters in different ways. My mother reached for my hand. Can you ever forgive us, Joanne, for being so blind for so long? I sat beside her, feeling the weight of decades of family dynamics shifting between us. There is nothing to forgive. You did what you thought was right. We all make mistakes, even with the best intentions. What happens now? My father asked, looking lost. Now, I said, squeezing my mother's hand, we start fresh. You have a beautiful home in a safe neighborhood. Amanda has some difficult truths to face about herself. And I have finally said things I have kept inside for far too long. And the baby? My mother whispered. Our grandchild? Amanda is angry now, but she will not keep her child from you forever, I assured her. She needs you too much for that. When the baby comes, things will change again. As we sat together in the fading light of evening, the harbor lights beginning to twinkle beyond the windows, I felt something shift within me. The pain was still there, but alongside it was a new sense of peace. I had broken the cycle of enabling that had defined our family for decades. Whatever came next, we would face it with clearer eyes and stronger boundaries. That night, for the first time in months, I slept without dreams of the past or fears for the future. 1 year has passed since the day my parents discovered the true nature of both their daughters. In that time, our family has undergone transformations none of us could have predicted. My parents have settled beautifully into their penthouse, becoming active members of the building community. My father joined the resident chess club and now organizes their monthly tournaments. My mother volunteers at a nearby elementary school 3 days a week, rekindling her love of teaching without the full-time commitment. They have made friends with neighbors their age, hosting dinner parties in their spacious dining room with views that still take my breath away each time I visit. The financial burden that had weighed them down for years has lifted. With Frank's help, we established a repayment plan for their outstanding debts, using a small portion of my monthly income. They initially refused this assistance, but I convinced them to accept it as an advance on the inheritance I would have received had circumstances been different. This framing allowed them to maintain their dignity while accepting help. Our relationship has deepened through honest conversations that were painful but necessary. One evening, over glasses of wine on their terrace, my father confessed that they had always leaned more heavily on me because they knew I could handle it, while they feared Amanda would fall apart without their constant support. We thought we were protecting her, he admitted. Instead, we prevented her from developing the strength she needed. And we took your strength for granted, my mother added. We expected you to understand, to forgive, to keep being the responsible one without acknowledgement or reward. These conversations healed wounds I had carried since childhood. For the first time, I felt truly seen by my parents, not just as the capable daughter who needed nothing, but as a woman who had sacrificed and struggled in her own way. Amanda did sell the family house, though not as quickly as she had planned. The market shifted unexpectedly, and she had to lower the price twice before finding a buyer. The final sale price was $720,000, significantly less than she had anticipated. After paying off their considerable debts, she and Ryan had enough for a modest down payment on a 3-bedroom townhouse in a middle-class suburb 20 miles from Boston. Their son, my nephew Jackson, was born healthy and beautiful 3 weeks after our confrontation. Despite her threats, Amanda allowed our parents to visit the hospital. The joy of new life temporarily overshadowed the family tensions, though the underlying issues remained unresolved. In the months that followed, Amanda's attitude fluctuated between resentment and grudging acceptance of the new family dynamic. Parenthood has challenged her in ways she never expected. Ryan found work as a music teacher at a private school, bringing some stability to their household. Necessity has forced Amanda to develop the self-reliance she avoided for so long. Our relationship remains complicated. We are cordial at family gatherings, which now take place primarily at our parents' penthouse. We exchange pleasantries about Jackson, who I adore despite the tension with his mother. The bond between sisters is damaged but not destroyed, and I hold hope that time will continue to heal what words cannot. As for me, my life has taken unexpected turns as well. 6 months ago, I sold my condo and purchased a Victorian brownstone in need of renovation. The project has become both my passion and my therapy, transforming something neglected into something beautiful room by room. Through a client, I met Daniel, a widowed architect with a 7-year-old daughter named Lily. What began as a professional consultation about my renovation evolved into coffee meetings, then dinners, and now a relationship that feels more genuine than anything I experienced with Michael. Daniel understands loss and rebuilding. He values my independence while offering partnership without possession. Lily and I have developed our own bond over books and baking on Sunday afternoons. Last month, we all gathered at my parents' penthouse to celebrate their 45th wedding anniversary. Amanda came with Ryan and Jackson. The atmosphere was cautious, but cordial. As I watched my father hold his grandson while my mother showed Daniel family photos, I realized that we were creating a new kind of family equilibrium. After dinner, Amanda approached me on the terrace while everyone else was inside having dessert. "Your place looks amazing," she said, nodding toward the lights of my neighborhood visible in the distance. "Daniel seems nice too." "Thank you," I replied, unsure where the conversation was heading. She hesitated, then added, "I have been thinking a lot about everything that happened last year. I was awful to you. To all of you, really." I remained silent, allowing her the space to continue. "Motherhood has been humbling," she admitted. "Nothing has gone the way I planned. Nothing has been as easy as I expected. For the first time, I understand what it means to put someone else first, truly first, above your own wants." "It changes you," I agreed. "I am sorry, Joanne," she said finally, the words clearly difficult for her. "I was selfish and entitled. What you did for Mom and Dad was incredible. I would have let them live in a dangerous neighborhood while I took their house. What kind of person does that make me?" "It makes you human," I said gently. "We all make mistakes, Amanda. The question is whether we learn from them." "I am trying," she whispered. "It is harder than I thought it would be, facing who I really am." Before I could respond, Jackson's cry came from inside, and Amanda rushed to attend to him. But something had shifted between us, a tiny crack in the wall of resentment that had divided us for so long. That night, as Daniel and I drove home, he asked me a question that made me pause. "Do you regret what you did? Spending all that money on your parents when they had chosen to give everything to your sister?" I considered his question carefully before answering. "No, I do not regret it. But not because it forced them to see the truth about Amanda or because it changed our family dynamic. I do not regret it because it freed me." "Freed you from what?" he asked. "From needing their approval. From the cycle of trying to earn love through achievement or sacrifice. I did something solely because it was right, not because anyone expected it of me or because I would get recognition for it. That was the true gift I gave myself." The lessons of this year have been profound. I learned that true generosity comes without expectations. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop protecting them from the consequences of their actions. That forgiveness does not require forgetting, but it does require releasing the hope that the past could have been different. Most importantly, I learned that family bonds can bend almost to breaking, but still have the capacity to heal if given enough time, honesty, and space to transform into something new. As I stand on the balcony of my renovated brownstone this evening, watching the sunset cast golden light across the city, I feel a sense of peace I never thought possible after last year's betrayal. Daniel and Lily are inside, setting the table for dinner with my parents who visit every Sunday now. My phone contains a recent text from Amanda with a photo of Jackson taking his first steps. The family I was born into hurt me deeply, but it also shaped my strength and resilience. The family I am choosing now, the one I am building through conscious decisions and clear boundaries, gives me hope for the future. Sometimes, the family we choose gives us the strength to face the family we were born into. And in that choice, I found not just my voice, but my peace. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about family dynamics and personal growth. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision regarding family that others might not understand? Share your experience in the comments below. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, sometimes the most powerful response to unfairness is not anger, but strategic kindness. See you in the next video.